All right, today we are diving deep into a corporate giant, Boeing. We're going to follow the clues hidden inside the financial data, try to figure out if this stock is getting ready for takeoff or if it's about to hit some serious turbulence. Let's get right into it.
You know, every now and then, a massive company like this gets to a moment, a real crossroads where things could go either way. What we're looking at isn't just numbers on a chart, it's really the start of a brand new and pretty crucial chapter in its story.
And that brings us to the big question we're trying to answer here. Is Boeing stock actually building up steam for a huge climb, or is it about to trip and fall? Honestly, it's a fascinating puzzle. But the good news is the data always leaves behind a trail of clues. So our job today is to be financial detectives. We're going to piece it all together and see what kind of picture starts to form. So let's grab our magnifying glasses and start this investigation. Okay, it all starts with this one single number. $201.43. Now, this is not some random price. For Boeing, right now, this is what we're going to call the battle line. It's the absolute key to this entire story. So this battle line, it represents a huge fight for control. You've got two sides in the market, the bulls who are betting the price goes up and the bears who are betting it goes down. And that fight is happening literally as we speak. So what exactly is this line? It's something called the 200-day simple moving average, or the SMA 200 for short. Just think of it as the long-term trend for stock. For a ton of traders and analysts, if you're above this line, you're in a bull market. If you're below it, you're in a bear market. It's a massive deal, both technically and psychologically. And this just lays it out perfectly. Look at this. Boeing's price has just peaked its head above that critical line by less than 50 cents. I mean, this is the very definition of a tipping point. If the stock can stay above this level, it could signal a huge shift in its long-term direction. Okay, so with the price teetering right on this critical edge, we're going to need more evidence. So let's shift gears and look for clues that suggest the bulls, the optimists, might actually be winning this fight. And to do that, we need to follow the money.
And our first clue, and you could argue it's the most powerful one, comes from a source that you really can't ignore: the big players. We're talking about the huge institutions, the ones with the deepest pockets.
So how do we track them? Well, we use an indicator called the ADOSC, which is basically a money flow detector. When you see a big positive number here, it's telling us that on balance, the big money is flowing into the stock. They are accumulating shares. And that's a massive vote of confidence, because when these major players start buying, their share size can literally create its own momentum. And would you look at this number? For Boeing, the ADOSC is reading almost 11.3 million. That is not just positive, it is incredibly positive. This is probably our biggest piece of bullish evidence right here. It's a strong suggestion that the big institutional buyers are stepping in and supporting the stock right at this crucial level. So the big money is a major point for the bulls. But what about what's happening right now, in the immediate term? Well, those short-term clues are pointing in the same direction, telling us that momentum is building as we speak. Right now, the price is trading above both its 5-day and its 20-day averages. This just tells us that in the very near term, the trend is clearly pointing up. The stock is building a nice head of steam. All right, next clue. It's another classic tool called the RSI. You can think of it like a health meter for the stock's recent run. It goes from 0 to 100. If it gets way up there, above 70, the stock might be overbought. It's run too hot, too fast. If it's too low, below 30, it might be oversold. So look where Boeing is sitting. It's got an RSI of 56, putting it right in that healthy, neutral zone. Now, this is a really bullish sign because it shows the stock has strength, but it's not overdone. It seems like there's plenty of room to run before anyone would start calling it overheated. So far, the evidence is looking pretty good for the bulls, right? But any good detective knows you always have to look for counter evidence. Are there any warning signs? Any pieces of data that tell a different story?
And, well, it turns out there is one. While all the major indicators are flashing green, there's one very sensitive, very short-term indicator that's kind of whispering a little note of caution. And we need to listen to it.
It's called the stock RSI. It's like the RSI we just talked about, but kind of on hyperdrive. It's super sensitive to the most recent price moves. And Boeing's reading is just over 80, which is technically in overbought territory. Now, this doesn't erase all the other bullish signs, not at all. But it does suggest that this recent rally might need to take a quick breather before it can keep going higher. Okay, so we've got strong buying from the big players, we've got positive momentum, but we also have a tiny hint of short-term exhaustion. So what does that all mean? It brings us right back to the battlefield. The winner here is going to be decided by whether the price can clear some very specific levels. And this brings everything down to these make or break prices. For the bulls to really claim victory, they have to push the price above that key resistance at 203.04. On the flip side, if the price starts to sputter and falls below support at 265, well, the bears take back control. These are the lines in the sand you gotta watch. So let's quickly recap our case file. We've got the ADOSC, which is a big, strong, bullish signal. The RSI, also bullish. The price testing that huge SMA 200 line from above, that's cautiously bullish. The only little mark against this whole thing is that one short-term stuck RSI reading, which just adds a layer of, let's call it caution.
So after laying out all the clues, weighing all the pros and all the cons, what's the final takeaway from all this technical analysis? Where does the balance of evidence really fall?
So, the final verdict? Well, the source material frames this as a classic watch for breakout scenario. That really strong institutional buying that we saw, that's the deciding factor. It suggests that even if there's a short-term pause, the underlying pressure is still pointing up. The whole setup seems to favor the bulls. So the data, the technicals, they all seem to point toward a potential turnaround for Boeing, with some really clear clues for a breakout. But as we all know, in the markets, the charts only suggest what could happen. The future is what writes the actual story. So the only question left is, will it play out? That's what we'll all be watching.